After 2 days off, the Carolina Hurricanes are back in action, and with 71 games down, there's 11 more to go before the playoffs.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hawkers, also do some AHL coverage over at the Caller Times, even doing some baseball at Covering the Corner, which is SB Nation's website talking about the Cleveland Guardians. I'm also the co-host of the Searchcast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast with Long Lombardies here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a fun Friday show for you as we get to preview the Carolina Hurricanes game against the Montreal Canadiens on Friday night. What are the keys to the games and who are the players to watch in the matchup with 11 games left in the regular season? But before we jump into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So like I said, the Carolina Hurricanes take on the Montreal Canadiens tonight. The game will be on FanDuel Sports Network South. It is a 7 p.m. puck drop. The Canadiens 33-29-9. They're in a fight for a wild card spot, and your Carolina Hurricanes are 43-24-4. Basically in a fight to get the second seed in the East, hopefully, but they are definitely going to be locking down the second place spot in the Metro Division with a few games left. These guys keep securing points and distancing themselves from the New Jersey Devils. The last time these two teams played, of course, this was back in February, right after the Four Nations break, where the Canes went to Eastern Canada and had a not-so-great trip, losing to Toronto and then losing to Montreal on February 25th, 4-0 in that shootout. This is the second game of a 3-game season series, with this one being tonight at 7, and then, of course, they go back to Montreal again on April 16th. Now, over the last 5 games, who are the points, goals, and assist leaders? Well, for the Canadiens in points, it's Brandon Gallagher with 6, who also does lead the team with 4 assists, and Christian Dvorak with 3 goals, of all people to think about doing that for the Canadiens. For the Hurricanes, well, Shane Gostisbehere, 5 assists. How about that for Ghost? Having a great, dealt with some injuries, was kind of getting his footing back, and now he's been playing very well over the last 5 games. And then Taylor Hall, I mean, obviously the guy who scored the last 4 Carolina Hurricanes goals, 5 goals, 7 points in his last 5. And I'm still being on that drum. Hurricanes extend Taylor Hall. Now, looking at the tail of the tape between the two teams, obviously no paper says one thing, on the ice is different, but just getting an idea of what the teams are looking at in terms of their season so far. In terms of the power play, the Hurricanes actually went up a couple spots in their power play since they've scored, 3 power play goals since the Philadelphia Flyers game. They're up to 25th in the league at 18.1%. However, the Canadiens are 20th, a little bit ahead at 21.1%. Penalty kill, 84.6 for the Canes, will still put them first in the entire NHL. However, Montreal is also 12th at 80.4. So not quite top 10, but they are very, very close. In terms of goals for and goals against, the Hurricanes still top 10 in goals for at 3.21, which puts them 9th. And they're top 10 in an 8th with allowing only 2.66 per game. That's even dating back to the 7-2 loss to the LA Kings. For Montreal, 15th in the AHL in goals for at exactly 3, but they do let in 3.34 goals per game as well, though, which ranks them 27. So they are bottom 5 in the league when it comes to allowing a bunch of goals. In the last 10, very different sides of the coin for both of these teams. Montreal, 3-3-4 in their last 10, and that includes a current 4-game losing streak where they lost to the Islanders in overtime, losing to Colorado in a shootout, then losing to St. Louis and the Philadelphia Flyers. In their last, 4 games, of course, they did have a back-to-back against Florida and Ottawa where they beat both of them. For the Hurricanes, 8-2-0 in their last 10. That includes the 8-game winning streak that we saw going from Detroit to Boston And of course, Winnipeg and all the way that through to the San Jose Sharks. Then we all know that 7-2 loss to the Kings. Followed up with a Sunday win in Anaheim, and then a very tough stretch of 3 games in 4 days, which included a day of travel where the team left on Monday morning instead of right after the Anaheim game. So they get back from California, got a game on Tuesday against Nashville, and unfortunately lose 3-1. They got Saros. Hey, what can you do? But, if you're the Hurricanes, you'll gladly be on the 8-2-0 side instead of the tough month of February that we all saw. Now, in terms of goaltending, this will be a very interesting matchup between the two sides. And, we had Pierre Kachekov in the last game. You're never going to get Freddie Anderson in this one. He's 11-5-0 with a 207 goals against, a 918 save percentage, and a shutout. So we're looking to see if Frederick Anderson can pick up his 12th win of the season. Now on the other side, Sam Montembeault, 25-22-6 with a 293 and 898 save percentage and 4 shutouts, while Jacob Dobbs, 6-4-2, a 302 goals against, an 897 and a shutout. I would not be surprised. I know you would be interested to put Jacob in, but it would be weird not to see a guy like Sam Montembeault who has a little bit better goals against, not a lot, but a little bit. He does have 4 shutouts, and he does have a better record overall since the fact he's played more games. So if the Canadiens are trying to fight for a wild card spot to make it into the playoffs, because right now they hold the second wild card, I could definitely see Sam Montembeault being for them in this game just to give them an opportunity to grab a win. Because as of right now, as you look at it in terms of the standings, the Hurricanes, they have 90 points on the season. They are 27-8-1. Did have that rare home loss against Nashville. Like I said, with Montreal, they are the second team in the wild card, 75 points. They are a minus 25, which is crazy to think that their goal differential is that big of a margin, but they hold a wild card spot. On the road, they are 15-17-4, so it should definitely be interesting to see how this works out. They are a point up on, surprisingly, who could have thought of this, the Islanders and the Rangers, who decided to remember how to play hockey again. They're within a point. Columbus is only 2 points back at 73, and then Detroit is 3 back at 72. So, yeah, who would have thought that the Montreal Canadiens would be fighting for a playoff spot this year, and especially when it gets the Islanders and the Rangers, who kind of looked all intents and purposes for most of the season not really being there. So the East wild card is definitely shaping up to be a very wild one. And of course, for the Hurricanes, 90 points. They're 7 up on the New Jersey Devils with 2 games in the hand. So right now, the Hurricanes with 11 games left are just looking to grab 5 more wins out of the next 11 to hit 100 points once again. They are 13 back of Washington. It's just going to be impossible for them to win the division. So right now, it's just going about taking the second spot in the Metro Division and then looking in terms of the conference. They are currently right now the 2nd seed. They are tied with Montreal. They're tied with Toronto, but they do have a game in hand with 90 points. They are a point up on the Panthers and a point up on the Lightning. So right now it's a 4-team battle for the 2nd seed in the East. And if you're Carolina, this is where you're really hoping that it works out in your favor because you want to take that second spot in the East to be being able to give you home ice advantage throughout the playoffs. So it should definitely be interesting in terms of how this works out. Of course, you lose Montreal 4-0 in your first game. Of course, it's like 2 games back from the 4 Nations break. February was just a tough month for the team, but we do have a new team now. Mark Jankowski is with them, Logan Stankoven as well. And of course, the scoring has been up all across the roster. I know they only scored 1 goal against Nashville, but they outchanced them. They look like the better team. It's just the puck luck wasn't there. But Taylor Hall scoring, Mark Jankowski scoring a lot, Seth Jarvis, Sebastian Aho. And this is where you kind of, you bounce back from the tough loss against Nashville. You still got 3 more games into this homestand and should be setting yourself up to go in, do what you need to do and go and win this game. And, there's going to be some keys to this one. I know some might be cliche, but it does make sense. And I think this is where, you bounce back, you beat Montreal, you start, another winning streak, and hopefully, you got 3 more games in this homestand. Hopefully you pick up 3 wins, and this is the night where you start that. So what are the keys to the game for the Carolina Hurricanes to win against Montreal on Friday night? Well, stick around, and we'll go over that here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So what are the keys to the game for the Carolina Hurricanes to bounce back and kind of kickstart a new winning streak and hopefully be the first of hopefully 3 in a row for the rest of this homestand? And obviously, I know it's a cliche one, but special teams are very much going to matter in this one because you have the number 1 PK in Carolina going up against the 20th, power play in the Montreal Canadiens. But the Hurricanes, while they have struggled pretty much since mid-December and really struggled since January, the power play is at 25th in the NHL, but they have scored 3 power play goals since the Philadelphia game on March 15th, and thanks to Taylor Hall scoring 3 of them. But, they're kind of on the bounce back. They're doing a lot more. And Taylor Hall's even said that they're working together a lot. They're always talking and communicating. They're trying to figure some stuff out. And, they're on an upward trajectory. So hopefully, maybe they finally turn a corner and get the power play working, because we all know when it comes to the playoffs, you have to win on the road and have a good special teams, and especially when it comes to scoring power play goals. So while Montreal is 12th in the NHL in the penalty kill, you have an opportunity to hopefully continue that upward trend of the power play working. I mean, you don't have to score on every single one, but just get one. If you get one, you're setting yourself up to be in a good spot because you have to win the special teams battle. Now, we all know Carolina's been playing 60 minutes of hockey for the last few weeks now, and you love to see that. And that's another one it's just another easy one to talk about, but you have to do that against Montreal because they are fighting right now for a wild card spot. They're only 1 point up. They're still trying to find their way to secure a playoff spot. And for Carolina, you're fighting for a second spot in the East. I know it's going to be kind of tough to catch the Capitals for the division, but if you are putting yourself in a good spot where you're already 7 up on New Jersey for the second, spot in the Metro Division, but now you're tied with Toronto and you got a couple other teams you're fighting with for a second seed in the East. Now you're just kind of, you still have some to play for. You want to get the 100 points. You still want to go and get that second seed in the East because, like I said, you want to have that home ice advantage outside of if you have to play Washington, obviously they're going to get it. But if you're looking at even, let's just say the Eastern Conference Final, that if Carolina makes there, which, the way they've been playing, I could definitely see them doing it, you would have the home ice advantage against whoever comes out of that Atlantic side of the bracket, whether it's a wild card team, whoever is the wild card spot, or any of the Atlantic teams. You at least have an opportunity to put yourself in a spot to have that home ice in the Eastern Conference Final. So I know division is probably out of play for the Hurricanes, but you're still looking at a potential spot in the seedings where, hey, you get second, there you go, you're setting yourself up nicely. And that's where I kind of wish that we would go back to that 1v8 system, because regardless, the Hurricanes would have home ice for pretty much most of the playoffs outside of the Eastern Conference Final. But that's a discussion for another day. But yeah, you have to have 60 minutes of hockey. You can't overlook these next 11 games. Yes, I know the playoffs are so close, but the divisions, you're not locked in yet. Your ticket's not punched. So you can't just be like, okay, well, it's the Montreal Canadiens. They're fighting for a wild card. We're second in the Metro. No, it's like you have to play every single game like any other one. And, once you have that X next to your name, okay, fine, then that's great. Then you kind of figure different strategies to make sure everyone stays healthy for the playoffs. But there is no X next to your name yet. Your ticket's not punched for the playoffs. So you have to give 60 minutes of hockey. You can't overlook any team at all, because we can clearly see that anyone can beat anyone. And this is a situation for the Hurricanes where they just got to keep playing their game and doing what they need to do to set themselves up to clinch their 7th straight playoff appearance and set themselves up to get the second seed in the East. And that's kind of what you're playing for right now in terms of that. Now, for the third one, and for me, it's more of playing that structured type of defense. And I know it's we've been seeing them playing very well, and I'm not talking just defense, just in terms of the defenseman, but like a whole team structure defense. I know against LA, they lost the 50-50 battles. They did really well against the Ducks. Even against Nashville, they clearly outchanced them. But when you look at the Montreal Canadiens, you lost to them 4-0. I know, like I said, the team's a little bit different now with some new additions, but this is where you cannot let Montreal use the Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, those type of, guys, Christian Dvorak, to find a way to frustrate you or take you out of your game. This is where you have to play and stay on that Carolina Hurricanes type of hockey where it goes into the 60 minutes where you got to start on time, get the building going, but you have to not chase, because this is a type of game where Montreal's going to throw everything they're going to have at you, and they're going to probably make you chase the puck. And this is where you got to stick to your game plan. You got to stick to what works for you, because when you are facing a team that has pretty much everything to play for, because they're basically in playoff mode kind of already, where they're having to fight for a wild card. Every game of them matters a lot more because they're that close. When you're in a wild card fight, it seems like the intensity gets a lot higher on those teams that are fighting for a playoff spot when they're not in the top 3 of their division. So for the Hurricanes, like I said, you're going up against a team that's going to be pretty much on the warpath to do whatever they can to score goals, and this is where you're going to have to put yourself into a good spot to not fall for them, not selling for their tempo, but you're going to keep, you got to set the tempo, you got to stick to your game plan, you got to stick to your style, and not let them dictate pace, not dictate how this game is going to go. And luckily for the Hurricanes, their home record is 27-8-1. Like I said, they had that rare loss to Nashville, but they're a team that are really good at home, and they thrive on the fans. And of course, the Hurricanes fans are going to come out and do what they can to support the guys. But for the Canes, it's just, like I said, this is where you're at home. You have the second change. You have the advantages to set yourself up for the matchups, and matchups are going to be key. And like I said, you have to not let them dictate pace. You have to be on them the entire game, and you have to control your will on those guys. Because like I said, you're in the second, the Metro, but you got a team who's trying to fight for a playoff spot in the wild card. Like I said, they're going to throw everything they have at you, and it's just, you can bend but don't break. But like I said, you just don't let them control pace. Don't let them control play, the physicality and stuff like that. It's if they punch you in the mouth, punch them right back. Don't just let them do what they need to. So this is going to be an interesting game of where Montreal scores a decent amount of goals, but they give up a lot too. They are bottom 5 in the league, and you're the Hurricanes. Where you sit at right now in terms of goals for and goals against, you're top 10 in both. You're setting yourself up to where could be something that you could shut them down and you score goals, because you lost 4-0 in Montreal. This is where you get your revenge game. You even the season series, and you impose your will on them and make sure that hey, you're 2 games ahead on New Jersey. Just get all the points you can to distance yourself a little bit further and really set yourself up to get the number 2 seed in the East, because right now that's kind of what's the most important thing. And what's going to help get you there? Well, it's the guys on the ice that are going to do that. And a lot of guys have been playing really well over the last few games. And I would say even against the Montreal Canadiens, there's about 1 or 2 guys that play very, very well against the Habs in their careers, and even early on in their careers as well. So, who are the players to watch? Who I would say is one of the players to really keep an eye on because of his performance against Montreal since he came into the league. So stick around, as we will do that here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing it around a golf at work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, or for me, watching hockey and baseball, 5-Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. And I have to say, I definitely need to try those ones because those sound absolutely amazing. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-hour energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we previewed the game. We talked about goaltending matchups. We talked about tails of the tape, keys of the game, but who are the players to watch on both sides of the ice? And for the Montreal Canadiens, I mean, Nick Suzuki, man, 74 points in 71 games. He's played every game this year, and he's been on an absolute tear for the Habs. 22 goals, 52 assists. He's a plus 12. 4 power play goals, 6 game-winning goals, 149 shots. My goodness. And that's second on the entire team, only behind Cole Caulfield's 211, and with Suzuki, 62 blocks, and he's averaging over 19 minutes and 50 seconds. And I mean, he's the guy for the reason, and someone that you really need to keep an eye on in this game. Now, obviously, you talked about one good young player for the Habs. You got to talk about the other one, Cole Caulfield. 63 points in 71 games, 34 goals, 29 assists. He's also plus 6, 211 shots. And this is where it's going to be very interesting for the Hurricanes. 10 power play goals and 7 game winners. Cole Caulfield is the definition of clutch when it comes to the Habs. He's averaging over 18 minutes and 6 seconds. Now you look on the forwards, but what about the defense and the one guy who's really putting up a season so far in his really, really young career, and someone who a lot of people feel like that he has a shot to win Rookie of the Year, and that's Lane Hudson. 56 points in 71 games, 51 assists, but he is a -9. 104 blocks and 79 shots, and he's averaging over 22 and a half minutes per game. I mean, someone who's in their first year in the NHL, logging over 22 and a half minutes, over 100 blocks, but he has 56 points already in a rookie year. The goals aren't there, but hey, the assists are. It's just that's the guy you need to keep an eye on, because he will play some defense, even though he is a -9, but he's not afraid to set up passes for his teammates. Now, for the Carolina Hurricanes, who should we be looking at? And obviously, the first one we got to talk about, Seth Jarvis. We all know he had that hat trick game on Cam Moore night. Ends it with he basically caps that off with a shorthanded marker. And in his career, in the 9 games that he's played the Montreal Canadiens, he's had 7 points. 5 of those are goals. So Seth Jarvis is someone who really thrives against the Montreal Canadiens. On the season, 54 points in 64 games, 27 goals, 27 assists, and he just got his 200th point the other night. So big congratulations to him. And he's right now 3 goals and 3 assists away from a 60-point season, and you would love to see that. That would be awesome to see him get 30, 30, and 60 to cap off another great season for him. He's a +8, 6 power play goals, 2 game winners. Oh, also, don't forget he has 4 shorthanded markers as well. 169 shots. My goodness, shoot the lights out, Seth Jarvis. You love to see it. And that only puts him behind Sebastian Zaho, 181. So, yeah, Seth Jarvis is not afraid to shoot the puck. He's averaging over 19 minutes and 28 seconds per game. Now, when you talk about the Montreal Canadiens, obviously we cannot leave out Jesperi Kotkaniemi. 11 goals, 31 points in 71 games. He's a +9, 104 shots. Great for him. Averaging over 14 minutes a game. And honestly, what a great, turnaround to the season. I know last year it was a down year for him. He wasn't happy about it. And this year, he's over 30 points again. He's got 11 goals, 20 assists. But the fact that he's really honed in on the two-way game that he plays, for me, he's definitely a Jordan Staal 2.0, where he's going to win you face-offs, and he's just playing phenomenal hockey on either side of the ice. Power, penalty kill, power play, however you want to talk about it. Jesperi Kotkaniemi has really put himself into this guy could be a solid third line center whenever Jordan Staal decides to retire. This is a guy you put in that third line, and he's really kicked his game off a lot recently too, ever since Taylor Hall's joined the team. over the last 21 games, Jesperi Kotkaniemi has really seen his game thrive with him being on his line. And, while he only does have 3 points against Montreal since coming over to the Hurricanes, this is one where you always hope that he has a great game against them just to be able to have like his revenge game type of thing. So it'd be really awesome to see Jesperi do really well against them. Now, we talked about the defenseman on the other side. We talked about Lane Hudson. We got to talk about all the other good guys that the Montreal Canadiens have. Well, hey, the Hurricanes have a pretty good defenseman as well in Shane Gostisbehere. 40 points, 33 assists, 7 goals in 62 games. He is a +3, 107 shots, and he actually does have 60 blocks and 40 hits, averaging over 18 minutes and 27 seconds. If you're talking about a defenseman who really does well for his team in Lane Hudson, well, you cannot overlook Shane Gostisbehere. In his first year back, did have a little bit of a lull after his injury, and he came back, but he's really kicked it off as of late. Like I said, 5 assists in his last 5 games. He's really putting himself on a bounce back, and with 11 games to go, he is 10 points shy of 50. Is it doable? It's doable, but he might be a little bit short, but hey, Ghost has been playing very well. I'm really excited to see what he can do. An honorable mention, because we talked about all the really good forwards that the Canadiens have. Well, the Hurricanes have a phenomenal defenseman in Jacob Slavin. I mean, the best defensive defenseman in the league. Cannot overlook him. So, I mean, it's crazy to think you can throw Jacob Slavin as an honorable mention of a guy to watch, but I mean, he's just that good. It's kind of like it goes without saying that it's just Jacob Slavin does Jacob Slavin things, but it should be a good game for the Hurricanes on Friday night as they, like I said, take on the Montreal Canadiens at 7:00. They look to bounce back after a loss against Nashville. They do have 3 more home games left in this homestand, and then it's very much road heavy for the last little bit of the season, going from the end of March through April. So it definitely should be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes, because like I said, 71 down, 11 to go. Now it's just maybe the division's on the cards, but hey, second seed in the East, that would look pretty dang phenomenal as well. Just be able to go out there, and even in a down year, transitional year for the Carolina Hurricanes, where some even thought they might finish in a wild card spot or, maybe missing the playoffs entirely. But now they are, like I said, with 11 games left, are in a fight for the second seed in the East. It's crazy to think that even in a year where people thought they weren't going to do very well, are very much on their way to notch their 7th straight playoff appearance and looking to take a 2 seed in the East. So you absolutely love to see that. You love to see, even with a so November and December and a very not so great February, but still putting yourself into a spot to where you're just right there. And you're setting yourself up for home ice advantage for most of the playoffs outside of playing Washington. You'll gladly take that if you're the Hurricanes and even the Caniacs, who, obviously had belief in the Hurricanes, even with a transition year. So it'll definitely be fun to see how these next 11 games go. But obviously you can't overlook tonight, because this is one of the next 11. And can't look over any team now. Every point is definitely going to matter for the rest of the season. But guys, that will be the Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you for making your first listen of the day. For your second listen, we'll check out Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube or even listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me, I'm at OneShooterZach on X. The podcast is LO_Hurricanes. I'm also on Blue Sky at the Zachary Martin, where I have links to my link tree in both of my bios, where you can check out all my articles when it comes to hockey and baseball. For the Carolina Hurricanes, well, it's thehockeywriters.com. If you want to check out my AHL stuff, it is over at thecaldertimes.com. Maybe you want to check out my baseball coverage. Well, it's coveringthecorner.com at SB Nation, talking about the Cleveland Guardians, especially with opening day just starting yesterday. If you want to check out my other podcasts, well, it's the Surgecast on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this show, well, it's Locked On Hurricanes on Google, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio. Follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review. I might just read it on the show. For YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumbs up to let me know if you like the show as well. Share with all other Caniacs to become everydayers just like you. But Hope everyone enjoyed the Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Enjoy your Friday, enjoy your weekend, and enjoy watching your Carolina Hurricanes take on the Montreal Canadiens on Friday night. And until next time, as always, let's go, Canes.